Hi Mark, great to meet up with you again and do some work on your game up at the studio on Monday. Just a quick recap on the key points that we covered during quite a productive session. Covered a lot of sort of detailed points, I suppose, getting into the sort of inner workings of one of your problems. And your main problem is that we keep defaulting to this sort of position where the club comes too close to the right shoulder, sets too steep between the forearms, and then at its worst can tumble onto that left forearm a little bit more, making getting the club in enough at 6 to hit the draw that you want to hit a distinct difficulty. Now, in this particular instance, you'd withdrawn the left foot a little bit, saying that it was sort of promoting a better feel. You can see here that it's not actually doing anything really. We have talked in the past about getting accumulator 4 to work down. Accumulator 4 at the bottom of the club works down nicely on that one. The arms are angled in. One of the issues that you find problematic in regards to getting the club inside enough is the amount of down lag that you create during the backswing. So if we do a line here down from the butt of the club, and we do a line on the lead knee and the centre of the hips, as your lower body starts to move forward, the butt of the club moves away from the target line quite substantially. So there's that sort of creation of the lever, a lot of down cocking, which is great for stopping the club getting underneath us. It's really good for generating power and speed and controlling your low point. But again, if the shaft was to get dumped early at that point, so if accumulator 2 was to either not load sufficiently on the way back or not continue to load from P4 to P5, the player would find that the shaft becomes a little bit too shallow and starts to drop under the right forearm. Now, obviously, the more down lag we have, the more the butt of the club or accumulator 4 has to work down rather than out from P4 to P5. So that's something that we've been working quite extensively on during the winter months. However, having said that, if we're finding that whilst it does work occasionally, isn't working all the time, this approach of reducing the amount of down cock that we get by shortening the distance accumulator 4 travels. So what we've done here is, the feeling is to have a much shorter top of the backswing position. It's not actually much shorter, I mean it's a little bit shorter, but nothing too dramatic, but a little bit shorter top of the backswing position. And for reasons we discussed, that means that as you move the body forward, because of the position of accumulator 4, the down cocking still occurs, but it isn't quite as excessive. So we just take you down to P5. So by the time the butt of the, or if you will, the gloved hand, or the middle of the glove, is in line with the left shoulder on both of these swings, it hasn't quite moved away from you as much. There isn't quite as much lag being created, although there is lag being created, certainly enough. And as a result, the shaft starts to set a little bit lower, not quite as high up through the shoulder. Then as it continues to come down, it's starting to encroach onto the right forearm at 5.6, rather than encroaching onto the left forearm. So quite a distinct difference there in the way the club is coming into the golf ball, with the club a little bit more inside the hands at 6. There's not the need to raise the butt of the club quite as quickly through the hip, resulting in a slight reduction in the amount of closure on the club face. You can see there with a gap between the forearms. We'll take a little look at that from face on. When accumulator 4 travels too far, and we get a lot of wrist cock. The butt of the club is higher and not as advanced at P6. Accumulator 1, the right arm, has not released and expanded at quite the same rate. As we come into impact, we start to see a much tidier look in regards to the legs, the handle location, the condition of the arms and the shoulders. Everything's much tidier. So shortening accumulator 4 to reduce the amount of down cock fractionally, making it easier for you to keep the club in at 6 without working the butt of the club down excessively from 4 to 5. Either way will work, either approach will work for you. The other thing we've discussed in the past is feeling like accumulator 3 actually loads a little bit more during the start of your downswing. That was something we did quite a while ago, and on reflection you didn't feel really comfortable with doing that. I really like what I see here. I think that sort of particularly P6 down the line is as nice a move as we've made. Shortening the arm swing at P, if you will, shortening the distance that accumulator 4 travels, has actually reduced the amount of arm swing we've got, obviously, but it's actually engaged the body a little bit more as well at P4, as can be seen by the difference between the knees, if you will. The right leg straighten a little bit more, the left knee's flex forward a little bit more. Club starting to get a little bit deeper as well at that point. So I quite like your P4 there. But what I really like is this sort of change of direction that you make with a shorter left arm at the top, a slight reduction in the amount of down cocking that we have, producing a much better approach for the sweet spot into the golf ball. When we're doing it with driver, the feeling that we talked about was making a 3/4 Steve Stricker style swing. One of the things that you tend to do with driver, Mark, is get the arms going a little bit too long, a little bit out of control, and then that just accentuates all the things that we've been talking about earlier with the amount of sort of down cock that we get. Let's get rid of these lines. So accumulator 4 travelling its furthest, tremendous amount of down cock. Accumulator 4 travelling slightly shorter, results in slightly less down cocking. Very fine line between the two. You see there's a slight reduction in the amount of lag that you create when accumulator 4 doesn't travel quite as far. So with the driver we really had to control it, and the swing that you're making here is one of the swings towards the end of your session where we said, right, feel like it's a sort of 3/4 backswing, feeling like the wrist. One of the things when you shorten the arm swing, you started to load the wrist more. So we said, right, feel like you're going to do a 3/4 Steve Stricker style backswing, and that with driver is as good as I've seen you control the length of the arc on the way back. We then get that transition where the club now can start to shallow, and again it's trying to stay in. There's a little bit of roll in a 3 on the odd one on occasion, but much more in and much less bias towards hitting a cut. Going forward, but the club's got to work down more, or the arm swing's got to be shortened to reduce the amount of down cocking. Either way is going to get the club coming in from the inside. I prefer the swing you're making here now with the slightly shorter movement of accumulator 4, because I think it looks much tidier with your driver, and I also like the look of that transition that you make with your irons. So keep working away at it. It is a different feel, but judging by the ball flight, things were moving in the right direction. Good luck with it. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me.